Good to see you, man. I love your hair. I didn't know you were also a hippie.
I don't have any recent pictures, so I just sent the straight version.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
Cool. So you have a long and illustrious career. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You sort of popped up, and no one really knew what you were up to, and then you were everywhere. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how many publications do you have now?
um, two, just two. All right. So I think the reason why it pops up was I don't know. I think it's like 8, 9 years ago. I was writing my graduation thesis, which was about the music business and marketing in the music business. Um, and I realized as I was learning things, as I was finding out things, I could just start sharing them. So I started blogging for Hypebots and for Tech Dirt. That got me noticed by official.fm, um, and they actually flew me out to SF Music Tech. So that's also the only time I've been to the US. I think that was 2012. So that's a while ago. And then we've been trying to get me to come back about every year. Never really made it work, but here I am virtually at
Great.
almost 11 p.m.
Great. And I consider you, I don't know if this is considered, if you would consider this a compliment, but I consider you the Sherry U of Europe.
I, I don't, I mean, it's too much of a compliment. Like so 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I started my newsletter, MusicTech Future, because I felt that a lot of the writing about the music space and music and innovation had kind of stalled. Like everyone that used to write about streaming when it was just coming up, they were still writing about that. And I was like, come on, there's more, there's so much more. So I started writing about that. And at the same time, Sherry also started. And then I took a break. I was product director for a music streaming startup called Idaho, which specializes in classical music. And it was just kind of too busy to keep
Are they the
writing every
top
week.
classical music streaming site?
Excuse me?
Are they the top classical music streaming site?
Possibly, like possibly. I would I would say so because I worked there. But there's a few services, but this is probably the largest one.
And you also worked at Zvuk, if I remember?
Right, that was a Russian streaming service, or like a
Like
streaming
more than a
service.
Russian streaming service. It was pretty massive.
Yeah, and we like I think around 2013 or so, we had like 1 million free users, and then when we launched our subscriptions, we had I think around 35,000 by the time I left, which was hard because Russia, like everyone kind of gave up on Russia, or had given up on Russia and saw it as this post-piracy market. Yeah, that was big. And back then it was more than a Russian music streaming service because we had the idea like, we're going to build this thing out of Moscow. I moved there to work there. We're going to build this thing out of here, and it's going to be a global competitor of like Spotify and Deezer, which were like the large ones that were not US based streaming services at that time. It didn't quite happen that way. Building a music streaming service is really, really hard. But it was a really interesting experience working in like the emerging markets landscape, working in a market where most people don't have any computer other than the cheapest Android phone that they can buy. So that's their PC. They don't have a laptop or anything, or maybe a shared desktop computer at home. So the dynamics around music are really different for that reason, rather like compared to markets where everyone has an MP3 player, or like in that time, plus a smartphone.
I've always wanted to ask you, were you in the office when the investors sent their new management in?
No. Wow, you heard about this. So they, it was, all right. I need to also like tell it diplomatically. They had a reason to do it the way they did. So luckily they showed up at like 9:30 in the morning. And most people didn't really come in before like 10:30. So I woke up to, or like I looked at I was awake, but I saw, we were communicating through Skype then, through Skype chat, and someone said, don't come to the office, there's guys with guns here. I was like, what? Like the investors are here.
Hostile takeover.
Yeah, exactly. Those were some of the phrases, and they brought a new CEO in, and I think it was because so there were a few things that came together. They wanted to do it like really suddenly because the founding CEO was really charismatic, and they were kind of worried. He was kind of a Steve Jobsian figure. They were worried that that guy would rather see the whole thing burn than let the investors take over. And then it's Russia, so the law firm that is specialized in helping investors like take control of their companies, they brought their security, which were like big Russian dudes in tracksuits with like holstered guns into a startup. It's really insane. So, but like I guess they didn't really coordinate beforehand. But yeah, that was bad, and it took months before things were kind of.
Okay, so we don't want to get you in trouble or anything. So it was, I'm sure, a very interesting episode, and it was really interesting from the outside to see basically the largest streaming service with these very famous executives change very quickly. So can you give, before we go to your project for helping artists, can you just tell people quickly about your two newsletters and where they can access them?
Yeah, so the one I'm most known for is called MusicTech Future. It's so the URL for that is spelled Music X Tech X Future, and then .com. And there I write about music and innovation. It used to be weekly. Now it's kind of monthly. It's whatever I feel like I can compete with the great stuff Sherry is putting out there with my own kind of angle. And then the other one is called Music X Corona, or you can access at musicxcorona.com. And that's a daily newsletter where, together with Maarten Walraven, who's an editor I just took on board, we write this kind of daily digest of, these are like the most important headlines related to how the coronavirus crisis is impacting the music business.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you, Melissa, can you pop the URLs into the chat if we have them? And if not, Bas can do them maybe when he's not talking at the moment, so right after. So tell us about the Artist Lockdown Challenge. I mean, what is the point behind it, and how do people participate in it? And is there a way for people to either drive musicians or get involved in it, you know, from a partnership side? Right.
So I'll just go chronologically. So I've been, this year is my year of launching things. I wanted to just build small things, or maybe turns out it's kind of larger things, and do kind of one a month. So at the start of the year, I launched something called Music X Green, which is a portal for music and sustainability. I launched a project to kind of highlight the harder sounds of dance music in Berlin and connect that scene. And then you get into a habit of like when an idea arises, it becomes easier and easier to turn it into something, to imagine what it could be, and find like a simple path towards it. So I saw like a lot of artists jumping on live streaming, and not really knowing what to do with the medium yet, having to figure it all out. And at the same time, I saw like their presences on YouTube and SoundCloud and just various other places. It's like, they don't, like, these things are not really in order. They could get so much out of what they've already spent years building up. And then the idea was, well, I already know how to do newsletters. Maybe I should just start sending out like one tip every day for artists to like, I don't know, improve and upgrade their online presence and digital strategy. So that's like the Artist Lockdown Challenge in a nutshell. Now it's grown a bit. I roped in a co-organizer called Carlo Kixon, who's a guy I know from I don't know, back in university. We somehow both ended up in music. And a lot of guest experts to provide small daily challenges. So the premise is, from start of June, 1st of June, every day for 30 days, we'll send musicians 30 minutes task. They can spend more time on it, but the goal is each task should be about 30 minutes. We build it up throughout the challenge. So we go through like, how do you tell your story around music and how do you get it discovered, to how do you turn new listeners into fans, to how do you hold on to these fans, to ultimately monetization and revenue. And then, yeah, some of these guest experts, maybe I'll mention them. Actually, one I think is on here. I just saw Chuck Fishman. So he has a band called FSQ. He's also, I believe, a member of George Clinton's Tournament Funkadelic. He's worked with Grace Note. So he'll do something about like metadata. This is probably a bit later in the challenge, but it's really important.
And I think I can fair to mention he's available to hire. Is that correct, Chuck? Anyway, so we'll get Chuck back talk later. We're going, okay, go on, boss. But we should point it out. We've known Chuck since the Wall Street Journal, I think, in the 1990s. And rock and roll, Chuck. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, and I think actually you connected him to Official FM, if I remember correctly, or I met him at SF MusicTech years ago, and then he joined the company. So there's David Weisfeld, who's founder of Soundcharts, which is a kind of music analytics startup. He's also the manager of a pretty successful electronic artist called Petit Biscuit. Alice Espy, who manages a bunch of indie bands called like Noah and Louis Cole. Schiffer McComb, who's worked on campaigns for Run the Jewels and DJ Shadow. She's been on the board of AIM in the UK. And Sebastian Linz, who he wore a lot of hats, but like I like to call him the digital mind behind the label and management of Hardwell, who's one of the biggest EDM DJs in the world. So like really, really great experts to get on board and help. And what we, at this stage, like we're about to kick off. So we have like quite enough experts on board, but we do need, we would love for people to spread the word about the Artist Lockdown Challenge, as well as we have a Discord community set up for it. It would be really great to have more experts in there to help by now, I think it's like a couple hundred artists in there.
Hold on one second. I'm going to make a quick announcement. The Speed Networking Room is now open, and the main people, like anyone can go there anytime in the next, through the end of the day. However, anybody who's going to be hosting Speed Networking later should head over there now so they get to see the experience before they do that. All right, sorry to interrupt, boss. Back to you.
So, well, that's it. No, I mean, it's artistlockdownchallenge.com. We are looking for, I am curious to get, we didn't have enough time to prepare that because it's like, we want to do it when things are burning for everyone. We just wanted to get started. Right. It would be really great to have artists who are already really good at digital strategy to participate and to kind of, let's say, vlog how they're going through these tasks. We're setting up in our Discord, we're setting up daily channels so that people can communicate to each other about the daily tasks and support each other. So that's already, hopefully, we'll find out, it's going to be really useful. But it would be great to have kind of a few personalities around it who we could give a bit of extra attention and put more to the front. Although I do think those will also just kind of naturally emerge.
Cool. So how many people are in the program at this point?
I should have checked before. So in our Discord, I think it's about somewhere between 300 and 400. I think we've signed up like 1,000 now. Like we're growing now, like we're growing with a couple hundred a day now. It's just been accelerating. I think like Rap Coalition, this community with Wendy Day, they caught on to it. So we've seen like a massive influx from there today. Yeah, we're gonna get started, and I think as soon as it's going to get noisier, and hopefully like they're half-hour tasks, so hopefully people can catch up. I also
So,
think it's just valuable to jump in anytime and just get started.
okay, so that's good to know. And what are you going to do moving forward? Because it's what really I'm always interested in, is get the interesting people and see what they see. Where is this whole scene going? What are you interested in? How can we help you out?
So, um, they're disconnected kind of, but like what I'm really interested in is the effects. How do I? All right. So like one reason why I'm skeptical slightly about live streams is because it's kind of a translation of what we used to do. Instead of, and it's kind of a poor version of how do we use our skills to somehow do something, because the skills are like in live performance is like how do we do that online, but online as a medium, or just the media in which we exist, it's different than a few months ago, and you're competing with Netflix and YouTube and emails in order to have the chat on, and in this case, the chat on Discord, the chat inside Zoom, it's all competing for attention. So it's very different. So in that landscape, how do you use your skills and how do you develop interesting concepts that are kind of born in this rather than translated towards it. So like, that's what I'm really interested in. What are people who are, who basically already spend all their time online before this, and who are just, I don't know, let's say bedroom producers, what kind of concepts are they going to come up with in terms of organizing virtual parties in Minecraft and things like that. Things that were already happening that are now coming to the forefront. I think this is a really interesting development.
And what are you going to do moving forward? Are you going to join a team? Are you going to do a startup? Are you going to join an established company? Anyone here that happens to hire you will be very lucky. And that accrues benefit back to us for years, because then they're like, we got lucky, we met Bas and hired him. What are you looking for?
Right, so my background, like I have two backgrounds, like I have community and building communities like I'm doing now with the Artist Lockdown Challenge, and basically product management for like tech platforms. Those are things that I can, I'm actually really happy to take ownership and join a team if the opportunity is right, and I can do it from Berlin because I really love this city and I love living here. But second, I'm also like available to do like freelance work and consultancy, preferably like longer term projects, because I think that's how you really get the most out of it. Yeah, and that's basically what I'm up to now.
Very cool. And who would you like to meet? If you could meet anyone in the industry, who's the most interesting person you would like to connect with?
Man,
Yeah.
do people typically have like an immediate answer to this? I'd probably aim for people are doing really interesting virtual events, kind of like maybe the Wave VR team or the Wave XR as it is now, but I already know them. But like this space, I think for me is really interesting, because I think that's where the biggest cultural impact is also happening long term, because those things are going to become a default sooner or later, and apparently given the crisis sooner. So I think that's a really interesting space to be in. So anyone in that space, basically, anyone doing events and exploring like the limits of this virtual media.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled that you're here, and I hope you get to stick around and schmooze with some people over in the other room and hang in this room and see some of the great people we've got coming up. So thank you so much for making it. We'd love to have you anytime you can come to the States. We'll hook you up, or come to San Francisco, or whatever else. Just thank you so much. Let's give a big hand for Bas.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.